Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Wait a second. Children of all ages. Isn't this show rated explicit? Yeah, that doesn't sound right. We're going to be using a lot of adult no-no words. Ladies and gents, we're proud to present to you the Spinning Our Gears podcast. As a reminder, the issues, views, and opinions discussed on the podcast are those of the hosts and their guests and do not reflect those of any department, agency, city, municipality, state, or country. All stories, characters, and individuals discussed on the podcast should be considered fictional for entertainment value, especially if there's any Blue Falcons listening in. Listener discretion is advised. If you don't like it, hit the big X and find something else. Otherwise, without further ado, here are your hosts, Turk and Swagger. Welcome back, everyone. Another episode of Spinning Our Gears. I'm Turk. One of these guys was the captain of the Toon Squad. The other one, well, he's got a big dick. And we're all just a couple of guys spinning our gears. Swagger, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm not sure I want to be part of the Toon Squad, but okay.
Well, we will let our fans figure out who is who.
Yeah. We'll find out, I guess. We hit an episode on 100.
No one's going to have any idea what we're talking about.
Inside joke, everybody.
So, what you up to, man?
Not much, dude. Just having a bush latte right now.
Yeah.
Number 2, because, you know, putting the kids to sleep takes a little while for some people. Just kidding. But, yeah, no, not much. What about you?
Is it the fall version, like the apple bush light?
No, that's what Miggs does. He's got that shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have yet to had that. I haven't had that yet at all. Still, I either A, can't find it, or B, nobody ever gives me one. So, share the wealth, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I could do that.
Basically, what Swags is saying is he wants free beer.
Free beer. I just had a week of training with free beer. It was awesome.
Really?
Yeah, man. Free beer, free food. 2 weeks of
nice.
Or 2 days of 2 meals a day. You could have 2 beers per meal. I was like, shit, this is awesome.
I'm in the wrong profession.
And a sick ass hotel. So I was like, wow.
Well, if you guys haven't figured out, we have a very special guest today. Do you want to introduce me or want me to, Swagger?
Yeah, you got it. Go for it.
All right. Well, our guest today, we've talked about him before on the show. We have him live and in person. Welcome to the show, Miggs. What's going on, buddy?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
This is awesome.
Good to have you on.
You know,
I'm
Swagger, I
so
can get you
excited.
some Bush Latte apples. I have about 60 of them sitting in my garage right now.
Yeah, I was
Do
taking.
you have the non-alcoholic version?
No, that's not a thing. There, Turk.
Yeah,
Okay. Turk's out then. Okay.
I was taking pop shots at you specifically. If you couldn't tell, I was
yeah,
I know
for sure.
you have it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
squat on that shit.
Well, yeah, it's part of the, you got to make sure you have a stockpile of it so when the world goes crap, you have some extra beer.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Especially nowadays, because they got all the weird shit going on out there.
I was just going to say, do you have your basement lined with beer then for like D-Day?
There may be a line of whiskey bottles down here. Yes, the beer's out in the garage right now.
You definitely don't have a whole bunch of empty energy drinks, though, right?
No, that's not a thing anymore.
That also got a reference in a previous episode.
Yep.
No, the energy drinks are no more, and it's coffee for the most part. And we'll do a segue right now for your Risen Warrior coffee. I drink some of that and a different coffee company that's we won't name on here.
They're not sponsoring us
Well,
yet.
they're not. Yeah, they're not sponsoring us. Yeah.
Not yet. We'll work our magic.
What do you think the Risen Warrior guys want us to do for our 100th episode?
We'll have to ask.
That could get really weird really quick.
No, I guess we could do the read now, but I was going to bring up, have you guys seen that officer involved shooting in Tacoma?
Is that the one where the dude smokes him at 183 yards?
Yeah.
What?
So the shooting happened back in August, but they just released the video, and this dude rolls up. Mind you, there's already been shots fired, and he rolls up, calm as can be, sets his cup of coffee on the dashboard, hops out of the car, grabs his rifle from the back, pops the guy from 183 yards, and with zero inflection, just dispatch suspects down.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Literally,
Holy
shot
shit.
fired, suspects down. I'm going back to drink my coffee.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably because it was Risen Warrior coffee. Am I right?
It absolutely was Risen Warrior coffee. I think it had to have been. I think if it had been some of that cheap knockoff stuff, he would have probably been freaking out.
Yeah, it would have been a little
Probably would have missed
panicked.
his first shot. Oh, that's good coffee. You know, the weather's getting colder outside, so it's the perfect time to get a nice hot cup of coffee. And if you want the best coffee out there, I suggest going to www.risenwarriorcoffee.com. Risen Warrior Coffee is a Leo-owned family business located right here in the great state of Iowa. Risen Warrior uses quality ingredients in their coffee because they believe an excellent cup of coffee can change someone's world. Seriously. Swagger and I and the entire Spitting Our Gears family enjoy drinking Risen Warrior coffee, and we're proud to partner with a company that puts the warrior mentality, officer wellness, and their beliefs into every cup of coffee they produce. Risen Warrior has a wide range of great tasting flavors at a reasonable price, but if you still want to save some money, use code Turk and Swagger at checkout for 10% off your first order. That's code Turk with the &signed Swagger for 10% off your first order. So head on over to www.risenwarriorcoffee.com. Check out the flavors they have to offer. Otherwise, back to the show.
That's impressive, because caffeine,
So,
when you shoot, messes your eyes up. So that's a good shot. That's not like he knows what the fuck he's doing.
Is that my problem?
it was, I mean,
That might be your problem.
your problem is the cataracts. And
yeah, right?
Either that or the freaking muzzle loader 800-year-old gun that you had from like the Revolutionary War. Like,
That is called
Jesus.
a Nose and a Gaunt, and it's from World War II. There, Swags.
All right, you know what? There it is. I heard you got this nice new
I guess-
high technology one now.
Yes.
I guess those introductions should be in order, though, before we jump to it. If no one knows, Miggs used to be a coworker with Swagger and I. We all used to work at the same department before we all went our separate ways. And Miggs, do you want to give them a little bit of your background?
Sure. So, weird story. Turk and I actually tested together, and I'm pretty sure we sat next to each other before interviews. And then he got hired because he was already certified before this guy. And then, after that, I was a FTO for a while, working mostly night shift. Went to days for a little bit. Been on SRT for 6 or 7 years, and been doing the sniper thing for 5 years now. And Swagger was my partner for a little bit, and then now I'm up investigations for the last year, and enjoying that because it's different work, but I really like it, and it's hard, but I like it, and it's fun. It's just different than normal patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we're kind of...
No, go ahead.
Oh.
No, go ahead. You go.
No, you go ahead.
We're gonna
All
walk.
you.
We'll walk all over each other. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Miggs was one of my field trainers when I first got to the department. So we had a lot of fun. I was canned by that guy one time. I got a
what I
bone to
do.
pick with you. Hey, got to, man.
That's what I do.
It was good. I was an
I will
idiot.
find
Should have known
something.
better. I happened to just maybe
For
walk
those-
in front of his gun at one point. Not a good idea. So if you're a rookie out there, don't do that.
For those at home, can is a corrective action necessary, meaning that Swagger made a mistake in the FTO program and Miggs put him in his place. But
He did.
at least you walked in front of a gun and didn't have a rookie pointing their gun at your back for an entire building clear.
Or like pointing at the
Well-
ceiling and using a flashlight to, just look around. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what's up here?
Yeah, literally. That's what was going on.
Oh, look, a squirrel. Oh, look, a dead squirrel.
Yikes. Let's not touch on the NDs of the worlds, guys, let's leave those be for now.
What could you possibly be talking about, Swagger?
Okay. We'll cross
Did you have
that
a
bridge
bad
someday.
experience one time?
I might have had. Well, when you get checked for bullet holes by your buddies, it's not a good day.
That's not a good day. Not a good day at all. Well, we should specify Swagger did not have an ND.
I didn't do it.
He
Nope.
was just very closely impacted by an ND.
No. I thought it was a fucking
but
flashbang. I was like, what the fuck?
Why are the filaments and all the light bulbs burning out? Anyway, the whole reason that we bring everyone together right now is because both Miggs and Swagger spent time in the military. Yeah. Turk did not, so I don't really have the background there. But the topic for today is military and boot camp, and we thought, what better way to talk about it besides having another guest on and having Turk and Swagger talk their time out.
Yeah, we figured we bring on somebody from outside the Marine Corps, because all I obviously know is the Marine Corps, and they can give us their perspective on probably the better branch of service in
the best
country,
branch,
if you will. Oh, okay, yeah.
Smartest. Let's put it this way: it's the smartest branch.
And if you don't know, what is that, Miggs?
Well, it's the Air Force.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's the Marine Corps.
No. You guys are good at shooting stuff and just making the grass grow with blood, but when you need brains, that's when you call us.
Oh, okay. I did eat a lot of crayons. I mean, I will tell you that.
Or if you want good food or hot chicks, I mean, you take your pick.
Yeah. So the red one was my favorite. The red crayon. The best tasting. Oh, yeah.
Way to totally brush that off and just go back into what you were saying.
Brushed it right off.
Like you were taking a trip down memory lane. Like,
Ooh.
oh yeah, the red one was the greatest.
The red one was delicious. That's the one they handed out the most at the chow hall. So,
did they have different flavors, like different MREs or what?
yeah, man. They had red and blue and yellow.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Oh, man.
Well, do you guys remember what was the breakdown back at Icarus when we were all there together for prior military officers?
Well, there was a handful of Air Force, 2 security forces guys, an intel guy for the Air Force, and then a handful of Marines too. Swags, and then 1, 2. Who am I forgetting? There's a couple, and National Guard guys or reserve. Crap, I'm trying to remember everybody.
Can't count the one that didn't make it though.
Oh yeah, well,
Dude.
He's a hero in his own
the
mind.
Famous
okay?
ejectocito.
Yeah. He's a hero in his own mind.
Well, in his own mind, and he'd tell everybody. So
He's the type of guy that would shoot himself in the foot and put a tourniquet on just to save his own life. And get a reward. Yes! I did it!
just to tell everyone that he was a gunshot victim.
Right.
What was that episode of The Office? Where a gun goes off, and Daryl's like, I just couldn't stand the fact that Andy kept calling himself a gunshot victim.
Oh, man. He's the dude that would shoot himself in the foot over in country, over in Afghanistan or whatever. He'd shoot himself in the foot and be like, I was in combat. Here's a combat action rib. Boom. Motherfucker,
Just
you
trying
did
to
that
get himself
yourself.
discharged.
Yeah. Jesus.
I wonder if this podcast has made it his way.
It had to have.
If he has any idea that we're talking about him.
I bet so.
Absolutely did.
We're small enough around here. I think it probably got over to him by now. At least one episode, maybe not all, but at least one.
He probably listened to
We
one and
dropped a
turned it
link.
right off. He would probably be supported by the admin these days. The admin of the world. We like you. You get over here. Oh, okay.
But I guess, would you guys say, though, in a 50-man department, do you think we had at least 15?
No. I don't think so.
No, less than that?
I think so.
You think?
Yeah. Maybe 10.
Yeah, I would say about 10. Without counting badge numbers out loud, I think we'd probably be around the 10 mark.
Yeah. Well, I guess the weird part is, once you get older, not to date myself. Once you start getting older and the newer guys come on, you kind of forget all their backgrounds and like who was military, who was security, who just came out of college,
Right.
who just came out of high school.
Yeah, I knew one guy was in the Air Force because he made sure to make it a point to tell me he was in the Air Force all the time by how dumb Marines are. And I'm like, oh, all right. And I hope he listens to the podcast because I do love him.
Did he talk about San Antonio a lot too? Back in San Antonio?
I don't know if I've heard that one. I had a lot of the what is it? I don't know. What does it say when you throw shit through a fan or whatever? Marine.
Oh, Jesus, dude.
Oh, that's funny.
If he listens to it, man, he's going to be fucking dying. That shit was pretty funny.
That is.
Well, I know of the one sergeant who was in the Air Force, and I don't know if I want to use the nickname we all had for him because it might give him away.
Well, don't do it then.
he may have been upset a time or two and may have had red hair.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't the one who talked about the shit in the fan?
No, that was him. Yeah. Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. Nope. That was him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we could just kind of start jumping in. That almost leads us right to the first question. To the fans at home listening, we went back out to social media like we did for our Canon episode and just asked you guys to throw out questions to us, and we jotted them all down. I prepared a few myself, and we thought it would be kind of cool for this episode. Instead of one person asking another person, I just ask the question, and they can, Swagger and Miggs can go back and forth and kind of bicker about their different branches and their different perspectives, and we would kind of go from there. But like I said, that kind of leads us into it. And I think the first question I had was, do you think that being a military personnel should be required before you get into the police?
Swags, you want to take that right away?
Yeah. I don't think so necessarily. I mean, obviously the military has its way of doing things that's going to teach you kind of it'll give you kind of a inside perspective on how a police organization may function. But I don't necessarily think that you need to be. I do feel that unless your shit is like strapped on pretty damn good, if you're going to be on a SWAT team, you probably should have some background in it. But obviously, where we had some guys on the team that knew what the fuck they were doing. And then there were some other guys on the team that absolutely did not know what the fuck they were doing at all. But we won't cross that bridge. So you guys probably have that more so now than you did when we were there. But I don't know. What do you think, Miggs?
No, I don't think you need military experience to, get back into it or whatever. I think the biggest thing is just being able to train and get, do what you want to do with it. You can cut this shit out. I don't know where I was going to go with that. What was the question again? Good Lord.
Well, so it's a little late for Miggs, too. Am I the only one who knows what 10 o'clock at night seems like?
No,
Yeah,
dude. I'm normally asleep by now.
No, so the question, Miggs, was, do you feel that military experience should be should be a requirement before getting into police?
No, I don't think it should be a requirement. The biggest thing is, can you adapt to your environment? The military does train you for that a little bit, but being on a football team or whatever, that's as long as you can get together and learn, anybody can become a cop. It's not military specific, I would say.
And that's funny because when I talked in other episodes about how like I did a bunch of ride-alongs and the one was through an organization where I talked to the lieutenant of a bigger agency in our area and just asked him after I kind of realized that this is what I wanted to do, and he told me that if I wanted to get into law enforcement, I should, and that I needed to go into the military. And I think it's just kind of funny how things have obviously progressed since then, where obviously you're not going to have a 100-man department of 100 individuals that have all been through the military. But I can also see from my side of things how it's probably somewhat beneficial just kind of getting yourself in that mindset and having that type A
Right.
personality and that type A training.
Right. I mean, if you're going to go into a tactical world, you come from a tactical world within, the military side of it. Yeah, it's going to play over to law enforcement, and like Swagger said, if you're on a tag team, yeah, you're going to flow right into it. But I mean, there's plenty of jobs in the military that have absolutely nothing to do with um, being a cop or being anything related to being a law enforcement or anything like that. It's just military is way vaster than way more vast, I should say, than what people I think understand what it is. I mean, you got guys that plug people into um, basically admin jobs that, hey, there's a job vacancy here, and they got and this at this base, and then their job is to find a new recruit and dump them into there. It's not all run and gun kind of stuff that Hollywood and TV portrays. It's just not the reality of it.
You mean the media has messed up something else?
Fuck yes.
All the time, man. It's amazing.
Well, I think a lot of our questions really kind of centered around boot camp. And one of the first ones that popped up was, how long does a general boot camp go?
Ooh, the Air Force guy will take the short answer on this one. So when I went through in 2005, so it's been a minute, it was only 6.5 weeks. I know that's at the time when you're 18 years old. Yeah, I know, Swag, you're laughing. It seemed like a long time. Now they've upped it to 8, but that's nowhere compared to compared to the Marine Corps and what they do. Yeah, it's each branch is a little different, but obviously the Marines have to take a little bit longer to train their people because they're just not at point, and they have lower ASVAB scores.
People are gonna love this episode. Yeah, so like in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, how many viewers can we drop?
Oh, I think we're gonna
anyway,
gain,
sorry,
I think we're gonna gain viewers, man. I really do. This bickering back and forth, this sells tickets, dude. I'm telling you right now. People will pay a lot of money to watch this. No, so like the Marine Corps is 13 weeks. That's what boot camp is, or I think it's approximately that now. And a lot of it is just I don't know, it's not drawn out, but it's more or less just kind of instilling the discipline that the Marine Corps needs you to do to be functional in the way they kind of operate. There's a purpose for everything that they do, and that's the point of why it is the way it is. But the snail mail, the writing home to mom and dad, or we'll get into the Jodies a little later, I'm sure, of the world.
Jodies, what are those?
And those issues. We'll talk about that later.
We will talk about that later.
I'm sure it'll come up. So, but no. So I don't know how like the Air Force does, but like in the Marine Corps, you do your basic training. You then get to go home for what's called boot leave, recruiting leave for I think it's like 10 days, and then you go back to your school of infantry, whatever it may be, whether it's the infantry training battalion or you're in Marine combat training, which we also, or the infantry guys call Marine camping trip, which is what all the guys who aren't grunts or infantry guys go to. So myself, so you go do that. So that's another month-long training to learn basic marksmanship. Well, not really basic. It's more advanced, I guess, to be more of a rifleman, because every Marine's a rifleman. I'm sure everybody's heard that. So, but it gives you kind of that tactical side just in case, shit hits the fan and you no longer can do your job that you signed up for, and now you're on the front lines in infantry, so you know what to do.
So for those listening at home that might not know, is there a difference between boot camp and basic training?
No.
Well,
besides the branch, the terms are interchangeable.
Okay. And so then I guess, Swagger, would you say that those additional, I guess now 5 weeks or 6 weeks that the Marines have, is that more of that breaking down process to build back up, or is it just more information thrown in?
I think it's more of a disciplinary thing, because there isn't really a whole lot else being taught. Everybody's kind of getting the same gist of stuff in the basic stuff, other than the instilling the discipline that you need to function. And then the struggle, like they're not gonna. I know they've made every branch of service a lot easier than it was when I went in 2010, when Miggs went in 2005. Things have gotten a lot easier. That's no secret to the population. It's because people in this country have gotten a lot softer. But even before us, it was extremely hard. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my uncles was a drill instructor. I mean, he would tell us stories that this was back in like the late 80s, early 90s, of just like horror stories of the Marine Corps boot camp of what they did to recruits. And I mean, it was freaking nuts, which, hey, it made them into the fighting force that they were. So, and still remain to be today, but it's definitely different.
So that actually brings us into the next question that we have.
Yes.
Are the drill instructors a lot like those that you see on TV?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing because I think if you were to take, off a Full Metal Jacket and take Arlie
Best
Erby,
movie ever.
I know. If you were to take that, there's stuff that he does in that movie that they still do in boot camp. But there's things that he also does in that movie that you could not get away with. There would be a lot of fucking trouble for him. So, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I had some of the, a lot more mentorship, I guess, to an extent. But they'll still literally jump all over your ass if you fuck something up.
Oh, that is so true. So I gotta tell a quick story that is quite
Yes.
embarrassing, but I don't care. So I remember standing in the chow line, and so it's kind of reminiscent because 17 years ago I'm standing there in the chow line, like literally 17 years ago, and this little tiny female drill instructor apparently caught me staring to see what was for dinner that night. And when you're normally standing in line for food, in the chow line,
For
you're
dinner?
literally, yeah, for dinner. Yep, you're just standing there, nuts to butt, staring at the back of the dude's head in front of you. And I peered off to the side to see, hey, what are we having for dinner for tonight? And she caught me from what we call the snake pit. She came marching over, screaming and yelling at me. Dude, I shit you not, my balls jumped up inside my stomach so quick. I've never been in like major trouble before, and she scared the fuck out of me. And just this little tiny little drill instructor, dude, I've never felt like the biggest girl in my life when that happened. But yeah,
So what was your
they scream and yell at you like the movies do, but like Swagger said, they kind of coach you along the way too. But yeah, they definitely yell at you.
what was your punishment then for that?
Oh, she just screamed and yelled at me, and
Okay.
stop stop looking out of the line and look at the back of the dude's head. Basically, count the hairs on the back of his head that he didn't have because everybody's shaved down to nothing. But yeah, that was a very memorable part of boot camp or basic training that sticks in my mind 17 years later.
So a couple
we're
things
gonna-
to touch on that. There's kind of a difference there. Like, well, I can't speak for Paris Island, but I guess now actually they have females out in California as well. But when I went through boot camp, it was an all-male Marine Corps recruit depot out in San Diego. So there was no female drill instructors, nothing. I guess now it sounds like they have them out there, which is news to me. But it used to just be all the females went to Paris Island. But then, like, if you got caught, like Miggs was saying, doing something other than standing nut to butt, and we had to do, like, we had a pocket that would hold, like, a card of information about the Marine Corps for history purposes, because the Marine Corps is real big on history, and we had to sit there and study, and we'd stand in line, and, like, somebody would be picked, whether it was a squad leader or the guide, to kind of step out to the side and kind of go over the knowledge of the Marine Corps, the history of it. But if you got caught doing something other, the drill instructors were going to pull your ass out of line and take you to what we called, the sand pit, and you were going to get what's called IT intensive training. And basically it's just calisthenics, like excessive amounts of calisthenics at a very rapid pace. And when you got in the sand pit, and they, obviously they're all screaming and yelling at you, they tell you to do one of the things in San Diego was, and obviously in Paris Island where it's very very sandy soil, they would make you a sugar cookie, and they'd make you grab sand and throw sand all over your sweating body. So you'd just be caked in sand. Like sand would get in crevices that you didn't think sand could get in, and it was very hard to get out. And you had to sit in that shit the rest of the day. So you knew who got fucking IT'd and why they got IT'd, because they were walking around looking like they just got out of like a bunch of powder. Like, I mean, it was just ridiculous. But that's kind of a little small difference there, that you absolutely did not want to get pulled out of line because you were going to get fucked up in the Marine Corps.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this very important announcement. Hear ye, hear ye. Read all about it. Extra, extra. Wait, what is this, the 1930s? Look, we all know printed news is in a bad way right now, but where does that leave you to get all your news and information? Well, I might just have the answer for you. You see, Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app that is compatible with all iOS and Android systems. Newsly picks the most trending articles on the web based on your specifications and reads them to you in a natural human voice. Most importantly, the entire web becomes listenable for the first time all in one place. You can finally stop scrolling and start listening. With Newsly, you can follow topics as specific as you want. Anything from sports, tech, science, Bitcoin, anything. I personally chose to follow local news and Leo articles. But that's not it. Newsly even has digital radio and what I know is your favorite form of digital information, podcasts. You can choose from popular podcasts from over 80 countries, and you better believe the Spinning Our Gears podcast is on there too. If you want to make Newsly your default podcasting app like I did with Swagger, you can download the app for totally free at www.newsly.me. That's www.newsly.me. Or you can use the link in our description. Do use that link, you can help us become one of Newsly's featured podcasts. Once you use the link and you fall in love with this app, sign up for premium and get your first month free using our promo code SPINNINGHOUR. That's SPINNINGOUR for your first month free at www.newsly.me, or use the link on our socials. Now, back to the show. Well, so you guys just talked about a couple of stories from standing in line with the food, with the chow line. What was the food like for you guys there? I think that was asked quite a few times.
It wasn't bad. I won't lie. It wasn't bad at all.
I bet that food was delicious for you.
You know, lobster on Thursdays, it's just amazing.
Are you recruiting for the Air Force these days? Is that what you're doing?
No, I should have been a recruiter. Should have stayed in, and I'd be out here in a couple years.
So for us, it wasn't terrible. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, some meals kind of tasted like they would have been like what you maybe played with as a kid when you were playing like with a kitchen. Like it was like rubbery type cheese and meat and stuff. But no. So in my platoon, kind of a funny story. We got told right off the bat that we couldn't have dessert because we had what are considered fat bodies by the Marine Corps. So we couldn't have dessert in our platoon. Well, one of the guys, I don't know, we were pretty early on. He snuck a dessert, and the drill instructor caught him while we were sitting in the chow hall. We only had like 5 minutes to eat, if that.
Is that a jelly donut, Private Pile?
Yeah, I know, dude. And he ended up grabbing like a brownie or something. It was kind of funny because his last name was Brown, and I don't know where this dude is. I haven't talked to this guy in shit since like 2010. So, but if he's listening to this, I love you, I miss you. No, I'm just kidding. But he fucking ate it, and we had to go back to the squad bay, which is where everybody sleeps at, and we got water bowled, which is basically chugging a shit ton of canteens on repeat. I think we ended up chugging like 6 canteens. And we ended up all throwing up all over the place. and then we
You're
had to
just
clean because he
hydrating.
wanted that. Yeah, we were just hydrating is what he was saying. No, we fucking upchucked fucking water everywhere, and then we had to clean it all up. So you're literally having to clean everybody's puke, everything they just ate. I mean, it was fucking gross. But yeah, I mean, that guy didn't. Nobody in our platoon ever ate a fucking dessert again after that. I mean, he made a point.
So I think what they were asking was, is it like MREs like you see on TV all the time, or the way you're describing it was more kind of like a, I guess I don't want to say buffet, but almost like a buffet style, like you would see at school.
Oh, we had buffets.
Everyone
Don't
get
worry.
in line, grab a tray.
So, all right. So, when you were on Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego, you had, so I guess I kind of have touch base on this. The Marine Corps Recruit Depot, you're there for like a month, and then you go to a month at Camp Pendleton, which is like an hour north of San Diego, and then you do another month back on Recruit Depot or Marine Corps Recruit Depot, and then you do like a week back at Camp Pendleton before you come back and graduate. So during that month span, in the middle, you're actually kind of in the field, is what they call it. So you eat a lot more MREs, and not the meals, like the buffet style. So yes and no to that question, because there are a lot of MRE that you do, and then that last week that you're in the field, you end up going through like the crucible. I think that, and I don't know what they do now, but they only give you like a couple MREs to go off of for, I want to say it's like 56 hours, and you kind of have to make that shit work for those hours. And a lot of it, it's obviously just like being deployed is what they're trying to do. They're giving you that setting. You have a bunch of objectives that you have to do. But once you get out of the field on that particular time, once you become a Marine, they have this huge ass breakfast brunch for you. And I mean, you can eat whatever. It's like the coolest thing. I mean, people just went ham on the food, and it was delicious food. It was much better food than what was offered in the buffet lines while going through boot camp. It was probably what the Air Force got.
Could be.
Say, Miggs, is that about the same for you?
Yeah, so we like during basic training / boot camp, whatever you want to call it. It was normally, you go through the cafeteria line or whatever, but then there's a week of what they called Warrior Week when I went through. Trying to look up real quick and see if they're still calling it that. But it was kind of the same situation where it's a simulated deployed environment. You're living in the tents, and then it's normally when you go get gassed and all that kind of stuff, and you're kind of living off of MREs. That's not as rough as the Marines, but I remember I think we got 3 that week, and that's, you kind of do some war gaming a little bit, but then they also had like a chow hall tent set up for us on a couple of the nights that we ate at, which was, the food was okay. It's still military food, but it was decent. But yeah, during basic training, you're getting they're also making sure that you're getting enough calories while you're going through, because you are burning a ton of calories and you're exercising like crazy and everything like that. Like I remember that they made us specifically get 3 glasses of water and 3 glasses of Gatorade every meal, and you had to drink them. So
Yeah, it's crazy how it seems like they almost have it down to an unofficial science. Really.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they do.
Which was probably all just trial and error. There's probably a bunch of dead people that we're never going to hear about.
Dude, somebody died while I was there. I'm not gonna lie. One of the other squadrons, they had well, they called them trainees.
Is that common? Is that common knowledge? Are we gonna get like investigated?
Yeah,
is that common knowledge?
No, no. They had one of the trainees down there. I think it was heat exhaustion, because I was down in. So people that don't know, the Air Force basic training is down in Lackland Air Force Base, which is right next to San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
So when I got down there, oh, dude, I remember getting off the plane. So we flew out from Des Moines, and then had a connecting flight in O'Hare, and then we flew into San Antonio, and it was like 12:30 at night. And I will never forget this. The damn pilot gets on the on the overhead intercom, on the plane. It goes, "Well, welcome to San Antonio, Texas, and good luck to all our Air Force trainees and with your careers in the Air Force." And it's 92 degrees outside, right? I'm like, "What the fuck? It's 92 degrees and it's midnight? What the hell?" But yeah, so it was hotter than hell down there most of the time until later in the year. But I got down there in late August, so yeah, there was somebody that died while they were doing PT, and I mean, so it does happen.
Quick question for you.
Yeah,
How many guys on your plane ride down to San Antonio threw up?
threw up.
Yeah.
I
You didn't
I
have
don't
anybody throw up on the plane?
Talking like from nerves?
No,
I
yeah, from
don't
nervousness.
I don't think so, but I will tell you. So it was like the first or second night at our
I
squadron.
know this story. I was going to ask you to tell it.
Yeah, so this dude flipped the fuck out. I mean, absolutely wigged out. He was so scared of being there, and I can't remember the kid's name by any means, but um, it was in the middle of the night, and he started chewing on his wrist, trying to commit suicide because he did
What
not
the
want to be
fuck?
there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He ended up getting obviously removed, but probably for psych reasons, but um, yeah, the first or second night we were there, he like was literally chewing on his wrist, trying to slit, in an attempt to slit his wrist to commit suicide while we were there. That was
Wow.
it was nuts.
So
See,
the reason I asked that question is when we like kind of similar to you, everybody in Iowa leaves out of Des Moines.
Right.
To the best of my knowledge, you go through MEPS or whatever, the
Yep.
Military Entrance Processing Center, whatever it is, station. And we got on a plane super early, and or no, sorry, it was super late because we got into San Diego like really late at night. It was like dark in San Diego, which obviously they're 2 hours behind us. But we flew to Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth Airport or whatever. And from that flight from Fort Worth to San Diego, I went to boot camp with like 20 Marines from the area, and I was like a really big Marine Corps like recruiting area. I think a lot of that has to do with just the toughness of the farm kid type mentality, I guess, is what they've said, that they go that route. Or a lot of people from Iowa go in the military. It's no secret to anybody, but a lot of them choose the Marine Corps. But I was sitting on the flight, and I was kind of excited, but also nervous. But like I started seeing people like that I was going to boot camp with who I had no clue who they were, throwing up like in barf bags. That they would like the flight attendants were literally handing them out because like they knew, and they started throwing up. And as soon as they started throwing up, I started feeling lightheaded. And so I don't know if you guys have been to San Diego. Yeah, dude. Like I started panicking. I'm like, what the fuck? I thankfully did not throw up. I will say that. I'm proud of that. But there was like 7 guys threw up on the flight. But I don't know if you've been to San Diego, but the San Diego airport, you fly like right over top of these buildings in San Diego, like skyscraper type buildings. And as you're landing, the Marine Corps Recruit Depot is out the window. You can see it. So as we're taxiing, you can see
Ultimate
where hell
mindfuck.
is about to be. Oh, you can see where hell's about to be paid on you for making this decision. So the whole time taxiing, these same 7 fucking dudes are just barfing all over the place, dude. And there's civilians on this plane, and they're looking around like, what the fuck? Because you got some civilians on the plane who are just clueless.
Right.
And then you got the other civilians on the plane that are like either A, have been there, B, are smarter and went to a different branch, or, or C, they just never seen anything like it. And they literally are like looking around at this, and there's some people are smiling and laughing, and there's other people like civilians, and there's other people like trying to help them, like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like holding, like the mothers of America, they're like holding their head up, like it's okay. Like the girl that's puking up all of her beer that she drank and all the alcohol, like holding her hair for her. I'm like, do these people know where you're fucking going? Like you're going to hell on earth. And but that's the other thing with the airport being where it is when you're at boot camp. So it happened all the time at Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego. Taps would play because that's what ends the night, and I want to say it was like, I don't remember, 9 o'clock at night maybe. Taps would play, and as soon as taps played, it was silent. Taps played, planes would start taking off, because as soon as taps played, you were already, you were in your bed, lights out, knocking the fuck out, and planes would literally just start taking off, and you could see them going out the fucking windows. Just, you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's a total mind fuck. Think about home, think about home, think about home the whole time. I can't wait to be on one of those fucking planes out of here.
Well, so that brings up really good. The next question. You guys talked about getting in there late. I'm sure that your first day there, it starts off. It's not like they're having you take a nap and then start into it.
Oh no.
But
No.
you're probably starting off right off the bat, middle of the night. I know that like TV shows will depict military members being woken up at various times in various different ways. But is there any sort of structure with the sleep there? How much sleep do you think you're getting, or is it just 5 to 13 weeks of buckle up, you're fucked?
No, so for the Air Force, we normally, I think our lights out were like 9 o'clock. After things kind of got going, the first, I would say, well, they call the first week Rainbow Week, or because everyone's wearing their civvies. Yeah, they call it Rainbow Week. I don't know if they still do that because of
they probably don't call it that anymore.
I bet not. They did at the time, so they called it Rainbow Week, and you're walking around your civvies, and everyone's wearing their jeans or whatever. During that time, they did wake you up, in the middle of the night. 4:30. Normally, our reveille would play at 4:30 for us, but sometimes the drill instructors would come in screaming and yelling at 10:30 or whatever, because you go to bed at 9, and lights out were at 9 for us. So you're getting, as long as you're going to bed when you're supposed to, you can get decent amount of sleep. But a lot of dudes after a few weeks kind of figure out, okay, I can go to sleep at 10, and guys would stay up and, like you said earlier, Swagger, write letters home. We didn't have access to phones by any means until there was 3 times we got to call home. We can go into that later, but normally once things kind of got going, it was a pretty scheduled sleep pattern. It wasn't totally jacked up unless your flight was totally fucked up and you had a bunch of shitheads that couldn't get their shit together. But my flight did not, which would equate to probably a battalion for you, Swags. 40 dudes.
I don't know, because we had a platoon.
Platoon. So, okay, yeah.
Yep. So and like like Miggs said, that the sleep pattern in the Marine Corps is very similar. I mean, you will get a decent amount of sleep if you follow, the proper, here's lights out, and then when lights on, for that matter, you'll get enough sleep. They don't knock you that. I mean, unless obviously somebody fucks up, which that did happen quite a bit. Because so in the Marine Corps, and I'm sure it is the same way in the Air Force, you have what's called fire watch, and you got 2 guys, yep, or a fire team, 2 others, roaming, that are basically there to make sure everybody's in law enforcement we say code 4, but everybody's good. And basically the front door guy, if he doesn't give a proper greeting of the day to a drill instructor, which is good afternoon, sir, sir, and report his post, how many Marines are on deck and yada yada, all this other stuff. If I could remember, and it wasn't like 10 years ago when I got out, I'd be able to recite it probably verbatim. But that would happen, and we had one guy that actually fell asleep while on fire watch, and he got fucking his ass absolutely reamed, and it woke the whole fucking place up. And then we had another guy who he got caught out of his rack needing to use the restroom, and he said it was an emergency, which is a no-no in the Marine Corps, because he said 2 things. A, he didn't talk in the third person. So in the Marine Corps, this recruit that. He didn't do that, and he ends up saying it's an emergency, and the drill instructor made him take his flashlights and run around the squad bay with the red one and the blue one going on and off, going wee 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 all the way around the whole thing, and that woke everybody up, obviously. So I mean, there were some times that they would. I mean, you'd get woken up in the middle of the night for just various reasons, but typically they would let you sleep. I know in the Marine Corps you're not supposed to like write letters after dark, but a lot of people would like hide underneath their covers and write letters using their moonbeam is what they call a flashlight in the Marine Corps. So, and I did it absolutely. So, but yeah, I mean, there's just little differences here and there, but you do get enough sleep, I would say.
That's actually kind of the segue into the next one.
Yes,
I think you both kind of talked about it a little bit. How often and how much contact do you have with your family while at boot camp?
So when I went, go ahead.
Miggs, you go ahead and take this. No, you take this one because yours is a little different. I think you already mentioned that you got 3 phone calls home. Obviously, the Marine Corps doesn't get 3 phone calls home.
Yeah, when we got our first initial one is you literally read from a card, and that is, I want to say like the first or second day you're there. You call home and say, "This is Trainee Miggs, and I'm here. I'm safe. This is my mailing address, and I love you," and that's about it. You have about 15 seconds to spat out whatever that card said, and then that was your one call, the initial call, and then I want to say it was 2 after that. I could be wrong. And then I did a little research beforehand because I kind of figured this would come up. Now what they do is they allow the trainees to get into their phones. Like when I went through cell phones, everybody kind of had a cell phone, but it wasn't what it is today. 2005, you had the little Nokia Snake phones that you could text without looking.
Those are awesome.
And you would take your battery out and stick it in your backpack, and they'd lock it in a room. Now I think it was 4 times they get to call with their own phone. So what they do is they shut them off. They must lock them up somewhere, and then you get to call home 4 times at I don't know what various times. But that's kind of what they do now. Like I said, when it was me, it was a payphone, old school landline kind of deal where you dial out and you had to have the little prepaid phone cards and punch your numbers in and then call home and pray to God somebody was home for you to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't imagine like today with the technology. I'd be willing to bet that smartphones in boot camps have got to be a lot like prisons. Like you have to figure someone's trying to conceal that shit and keep that on them at all times, but the price to pay if you're caught with that has got to be astronomical too.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. No, so in the Marine Corps, you got 2 phone calls home, but one was the same one that Miggs talked about right off the bat when you got there, saying that you arrived safely. This is your email, or your address. And then the second one was basically at the very end, just telling your family that, yep, I'm going to graduate unless I fuck something up royally here. This is my graduation date. And that is like when I made that call home, it was still a drill instructor. It was in the duty hut of the drill instructor, and they were screaming and yelling at me the whole time to get off the fucking phone. So I strategically did this and I recommend this to, the majority of people. Your first phone call your dad. And because he doesn't give a flying fuck, that you're at Marine Corps boot camp. Your second phone call that you're going to graduate, call your mom and just let her know that you're still alive and that you're going to graduate, and she'll be proud and she'll congratulate you and do all those things. That's what I did. I recommend that to all people. But yeah, the first phone call, I mean, there was no way I was going to call my mom at the wee hours of the morning. I told her straight up, I'm like, I'm not calling you because I know you're going to fucking cry. And I'm like, nope. I got a motivation. My dad didn't give a flying fuck. He was like, sweet. And all my dad's brothers were Marines. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. I knew I was going to be like knee deep in some shit, as one of my uncles said when I left for boot camp. And he was a drill instructor, so he knew. But anyway, my dad didn't care. He's like, yeah, no, go out and do something with yourself.
Well, now you guys talked about not the rules saying you weren't supposed to write out. Were you allowed to receive letters from family?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
the weird part of it was, so I was at boot camp when Katrina hit, and I had a bunch of dudes that were from the Mississippi and Louisiana area in my flight, and my parents decided it was a good idea to send a bunch of news clippings um, to to me, but they kind of, I knew they were coming because I want to say one of my phone calls were like, "Hey, have you heard anything about it?" I'm like, "Well, every day at in the chow line, they would like give literally a 3 sentence of kind of blurb of what was going on in the world, and basically all I knew was New Orleans was wiped out that at that time, like gone off the map. Um, so I told my drill instructor that, hey, I know my parents are sending this, and we have a bunch of dudes that are from the area, and they got extra phone calls to make sure that their family was safe or whatever, and actually be that was pretty decent of them because I'd be probably worried sick as shit if there's Category 5 coming through, and you'd think all you're hearing is a little blurb of New Orleans is gone, and you know that your family's in the area. But anywho, um, yeah, so we get letters and they kind of screen them a little bit sometimes, and they would hand them out in what we call the day room. And but if you're getting lovey-dovey notes and
Pornographic images.
yeah, nudie magazine day isn't gonna work out very well for you. Or super lovey-dovey stuff. There was dudes in there getting stuff from their girlfriends that, or their wives or whatever, that was all kissy and, oh, I miss you and blah blah blah, and you get made fun of or whatever. But that was kind of our deal. We usually got them once a week. I want to say they would do mail call.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could
But
write letters out, and with the military mail system, it sucks, because I would get letters that were like out of order. So I started telling people to like number them out of like one, so I could keep them like, because I was reading stuff that was like, you know, recent, and then I'd read something else that was like written to me like 2 weeks prior, and I'm like, what? That makes no sense. Like I don't understand this. So you could write letters out, but like getting them in, and I almost think they intentionally did it personally, but like they would like just kind of hold letters and then give you certain things. But yeah, like Miggs said, they would screen, basically hold it up and look at it at a light and see if there was any images, like pictures in there or whatever. And they were basically checking that for like legit, like nudie, like nowadays sexting type things. That's what they were looking for, because you couldn't have that. And then if you did have that, the drill instructors would 100% fucking pin that shit on a bulletin board in the duty hut, so they got to look at all the nudie pictures, not you. So,
can you guys describe kind of what the barracks were like?
I mean, I'm guessing they're probably pretty similar. Ours
yeah.
was two wings of bunk beds, separated by a wall, and then they had wall lockers on each, like on the outsides of it, and then just like kind of like a adjoining hallway that had the bathroom and that storage room where everyone kept all their like civilian clothes and their phones and all that crap. Um, and then on the end of that hallway was that day room where we sometimes you do like little piddly shit like classroom stuff almost that were quick classes. Um, but then like obviously mail call, and then if you're fucking up big time, we would they would close the door and smoke us and make the ceiling basically sweat with everybody in there, because you have like 40 dudes within probably a 20 by 40 room doing push-ups and sit-ups and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the gist of it, and they've used those for, oh god, decades.
Yeah, so if you've seen Full Metal Jacket, in that movie, basically that's exactly what it looked like. Is you had the row of racks, there were bunk beds on each side of the room, of the long room area. On the outside wall, kind of closest to the windows, there was like rifle racks there, and I don't know if they still do that or not. They were obviously locked up. But then in the middle was like a big, long area of just open space that the drill instructors would run up and down, screaming at you. And I guess in between that middle area where those bunk beds were, there was like your foot lockers and things like that. But then just like Miggs said, there was conjoined, it kind of made it like a U shape. And it was like the building that we were in was like a 3-story building, and there was 6 total platoons in the company that I was in. And each side had its own, they had their own level. But it was conjoined by like a bathroom and a shower. And then our gear area was kind of in with our squad bay, where it was all locked up. But then one thing that we also had, I'm sure the Air Force had as well, was there was a duty hut where the on-duty drill instructor would stay for the night. Was in there.
Yeah, we had one of those too. Yep.
So, but yeah, and then like in the Marine Corps for like laundry purposes and things like that, you had to go outside to the wash rack. They had actual wash racks like that they used to use back in the day when the Marine Corps, like really quite a while ago, where you had to like literally scrub with a brush and like cleaning solution your camouflage, your camis.
They call that soap,
uniform
swags.
stuff. Yeah, soap, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Soap, cleaning solution. I didn't know what you fucking use. I mean, some people use laundry detergent, or not laundry detergent, dishwasher soap. Like, what the fuck, dude? So, I mean, whatever. Whatever gets it to work, I mean, it works, but...
It's called soap.
The soap shit. That stuff. That's
stuff that cleans.
That's the inner Marine Corps coming out. Don't mind me. No, but then, like, now... And I know that we had it as well, but, like, they actually had, like, washer and dryer area, but it was not... It was, like, detached in the middle of that U shape on, like, the ground floor that you could go down there and do laundry or whatever.
So like Miggs, you and I spent some time in the barracks for our advanced SWAT school.
Yes.
And obviously that building had been kind of revamped for training purposes and for outside agencies to come in. But like that building had a day room with like recreational stuff. You guys didn't have that in boot camp.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
So during tech school,
what would that room have been for you?
Say that again.
I was going to say, what would that room have been before it was converted?
Oh, for us, it was just literally a desk, and then there was no chairs or anything like that. It's kind of like a small classroom, I would say, is how our day rooms were. Once you get to like your technical school or AIT or whatever the Marine Corps calls their like specialty school, it was very similar to that, where you have a day room that's got a pool table, TV, a place to go hang out with your buddies, whatever, off duty. But boot camp,
but
no.
You were basically confined to the barracks.
Oh, absolutely.
For boot camp. Okay.
Yep. There's no gallivant around.
With that length of time that you guys spent in your basic training or boot camp, how much of that was a beat down and how much of it was training, if you can kind of separate the two?
I'll let the Marine go with a beat down.
Yeah, so the Marine Corps typically, just from my experience, obviously things could probably have changed now, but they literally would pretty much turn you to dust. You were like the lowest speck of form of life on Earth in your it's called first phase, but it's like a month long. First phase on, there. They pretty much talk shit to you any chance they could, tell you that your family doesn't love you and all this other stuff. And then like phase 2, which is when you go up to the range and stuff, they kind of started to pull back a little bit. I think that's probably because they didn't want somebody with a fucking loaded gun to do something stupid. But then they kind of pick it back up a little bit. But then once you become a Marine, you become a brother. So things change immediately. From that point, in the Marine Corps, you're calling them sir the entire time. Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And then as soon as you become a Marine, you get to call them by rank. And that's hard to do because, you've called them sir for 13 weeks, and now you get to call them, staff sergeant or whatever. So it's kind of the brotherhood thing of it that comes out, which is really cool. It's a really good experience. There's obviously a lot of emotion for a lot of people at that point. But yeah, it's kind of just the process of it.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty similar for the Air Force. Just I would say it's not as intense. You're kind of bastardized during your Rainbow Week. Like I said, I don't know if they call it that anymore, but they break you down a little bit, and then they try to build you together as a team, as a flight, and kind of go from there. But real similar to what obviously the military knows what they're doing, and they have a set program or schedule they want to do to make sure that they can bring these 18, 19-year-old kids together to complete a mission. That's what their main goal is, and they've over the last 100 and some years they've figured out what they need to do. So it's pretty similar, I think, across the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Marine Corps, the one thing that they do, and I'm sure I don't know, this would be a good question for Miggs here too, because I don't actually know this, but in the Marine Corps they break you down so much that when they start to build you back up, which is why a lot of everybody in law enforcement has dealt with somebody who is a Marine who literally, no offense to any Marines out there, is fucking nuts. But they literally build them up so high that like they're untouchable, they can't be fucking killed. I mean, it's wild. It's a very wild experience because you walk off the base after you graduate Marine Corps boot camp and you're feeling like, you're like walking on cloud nine. Can't nobody fuck with me. I will literally ruin your life. And that's not the way the world is. Obviously, it's an eye-opening experience. But I'm sure a lot of the military branches, when they're building you back up to that point, they do that for intensive purposes. That you have to have that level of confidence when you go into battle, that you're gonna win and go home to your family.
Yeah, I would agree there. I would like Swagger said. I would say that the Marine Corps is a little bit more intense. I've jokingly said it's almost like a cult, um,
Mm-hmm.
in that regard because yeah, you talk to some dudes that they're super hardcore about it, and they're like, I'm a Marine, don't fuck with me, whatever. Um, and that confidence is good, obviously, but like you said, it's there's a reality too that we're all humans, and you're not gonna just be Superman.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy, kind of bringing that full circle when you have to deal with someone who is, I think, generally been in the Marine Corps, but I've seen it in all branches too. When they started having some of their issues no longer in the military, especially when it's fueled by like drugs or alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different type of call, and you absolutely have to approach that differently.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you have
Um,
somebody who served in the military, it'd be best that they probably go to that call with you. I mean, and maybe use them as a resource to talk to those guys because there's that brotherhood there that really they're not going to understand. And I mean, we've talked about it before in the past, both of you guys with me, but like, you know, a lot of military guys will push back against government overreach because they didn't enlist to do that.
Right.
I want to talk about leaders here, but I think there was one more question I want to get out of the way before we jump into some of that meatier stuff. The question was posed, how are medical conditions handled? And I think what they were talking about was, I know some people have asthma. For me, you guys know, like range days, if I wasn't coating myself in sunscreen every hour, it was a bad day. Like I literally missed school because I got burned so bad. How do they handle that type of stuff?
So normally that's addressed when you go through your recruiter. Depending on the medical condition, it's going to be if they can get a waiver or not for it. Like they have waivers for damn near everything, I think. But I'm sure if it's a medical condition that prevents you from performing your duties, then you're not going to get in. I guess that's a real broad question in the medical world because you could be talking about an ingrown toenail or having asthma or like my grandpa had one leg shorter than the other, so which prevented him going in. So that's kind of a super broad question, but like I said, I think it just boils down to what that specific ailment is or medical condition is, that if they can provide that waiver or not.
Yeah, they screen
Okay.
that stuff when you go to the military entrance processing station. So
And your butt.
you meet with a doctor, yeah, and your butt. They'll definitely bend over, spread them. They'll screen all that stuff and they'll DQ you, disqualify you if you have those underlying factors that they can't use or so forth. But while you're in, I think in the Marine Corps they made all of us put sunscreen on. Like didn't matter what color skin you were, everybody's gonna burn. They made us put that on. All of us. They, made you take obviously carry yourself with the water side of it, hydration, so you didn't get dehydrated medically.
Right.
But there's platoons, like if you broke, like the guy that ended up graduating as our guide, he broke his like femur pretty early on in his start to his boot camp. He was there for like 6 or 7 months, and it was him and I that were competing for the guide, and he beat me out simply just because he knew more. Like he'd been there for 6 months longer than I had. So he knew, because they don't let you just sit around. I mean, it was literally, he had to go to this platoon, the medical platoon, and continue to train, but it was more or less just learning. He learned everything about the Marine Corps that he could because they force feed it to you. So he knew. I mean, he was definitely a much better option for the guide in the Marine Corps is like the leader of the whole platoon. So it was him and I competing. I ended up graduating as a squad leader, but yeah, him and I were competing the whole time that as soon as he joined our platoon. So,
Did he have to start all over again then after he healed up, or was it just put him back in where he was?
It put him back in where he was. That's where he picked up at. So if he would have left, because I think some people have the option to leave and go back home and then restart. I'm pretty sure if you leave, you have to start over.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
So here's kind of. Oh,
I was just going to say that the Air Force is the same way. I know during basic training there were some dudes that got hurt and there was a medical flight, and basically you get removed from your squadron and put into this medical squadron until you either healed up, and then they basically recycle you to where you're at and integrate you with another flight or squadron. But obviously, I don't think I heard anyone like going back home unless it was super bad and they still wanted to, serve and get through everything. But yeah, I would assume it's pretty consistent throughout all branches.
Yeah,
Okay.
and not to get real political with it, I mean, they shoot you, give you every shot known to man, as everybody's finding out in the past couple of years, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But they give you every shot that you could ever get sick for. Because, I don't know, Miggs, did everybody in your platoon, right, once you first got there, within the first couple of weeks, get sick?
No, not really.
Oh, we did. I mean, everybody in our fucking platoon got sick, like, right off the bat.
No, I know the shot thing, though. I remember going through and literally getting like 3 in one arm and 4 in another and 1 in the butt on one of the days.
Yeah. The peanut butter shot, man.
That one in the butt wasn't a shot.
They did tell me to close my eyes.
No,
it was really weird.
The conspiracy
I was going to
theorist
ask.
in
I
me-
literally asked that question.
Yeah. The conspiracy theorist in me is saying that they shot us with like microchips, and they're tracking us this whole time. Oh, you mean the last couple shots that we got? The COVID shot?
Is that why
I was just gonna say
microchip shortage? Is that why?
Yeah, man. Oh, shit, dude, you're onto something. We're done.
I
We're
was
done
literally
for.
going to ask, like, do you think that the guys now are getting forced to take the COVID shot? That's obviously become such
Yes.
a touchy subject. But you guys can confirm that, yes, they are getting the COVID shot. They're being made to do that?
Yeah, so I had a couple
Yeah.
buddies that were posting on Facebook when COVID was hot and heavy with everything, that they didn't want to get the shot and the Air Force was going to kick them out. I think they ended up not being forced out, but they were making their statement, publicly known that they didn't want the shot and the Air Force was going to kick them out if they didn't get it. And I think that's just the U.S. government doing what the U.S. government does and going, well, we want to do this, so we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was definitely a thing of people getting forced to get the injection, and if I wonder if they, if you weren't complying, in a sense, that they would not let you show up to do, for duty. That'd be, if anyone knows, shout out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'd like to know that, or if that's something where like you're facing legal repercussion if you don't take it, or it. Obviously, we don't want to get too touchy here, but it just kind of popped in my head, and it is. I'm very curious to know. So,
Well, I think he
well,
was
it's a
gonna
very
get
important thing to talk about.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, this dude said he was going to get
so
separated, so they were very pushy about it. They were going to separate him, and he had well, I think he got in a year behind me, and so I mean, this is a guy that's got 15 plus years in the Air Force as a cop, and they're just going to be like, well, you won't get the shot, and all right, see you, bye, because ultimately everybody's replaceable in the government's view.
yeah, I guess I would almost have to assume the guys going into boot camp, the guys and girls, are being made to get it, and it's either you get it or you're not going to be. We're not going to take you on. But I don't know. It would be interesting to find that out and see the take there compared to law enforcement, compared to anything else. So
For sure.
I guess kind of bringing things a little bit full circle. Obviously, this podcast is big on leadership and being good leaders. When you guys were in boot camp, do you have examples of good leaders and bad leaders, or was everyone was it so structured that there was no room for any of that?
I would say on our end, it was so structured that there wasn't a whole lot of like, oh, that dude's a bad leader. I think you could probably get that with the recruits that are within your flight or your platoon or whatever. If they're a shitty leader, they're probably not going to keep their job. The guy that was our what we call dorm chief, he was going into combat control. So those are the guys that point lasers at buildings and then the plane flies over and blows it up. So he was pretty switched on. He was a little goofy dude, but I would say within the leadership of your drill instructor and the guys that you were dealing with every day that were leading you, there wasn't much to say that they were fucking anything up by any means that I could see. I mean, I'm an 18-year-old and probably scared shitless at the time too, so probably wasn't looking for that.
Yeah, you're gonna run into, like in the Marine Corps, you'll get some guys that become drill instructors that unfortunately they haven't really done anything. They've kind of just maybe moseyed their way through the career, and then they needed to progress in their career a little bit further, so they put in for drill instructor and they got it. But there's other guys that, like my senior drill instructor and the second in command of the platoon, very very good leaders. Preach leadership all the time. Kind of instilled in all of us, how to kind of learn, sit back, keep your mouth closed, as Miggs and I have talked about, just shut up and
Shut
color.
up and color. Yep, absolutely.
Yep. And do that for the time being, and then when your time comes to preach, it's time to preach. And right, wrong, or indifferent, you may get fucked for that, but at the same time, it is right to take, kind of transition yourself in there and become a leader and help those below you and those that are going to be coming after you, or even those really that are ahead of you. In the Marine Corps stance is that, tactfully speaking, you have to be able to tell, like in my profession I was a mechanic on a Huey and a Cobra. When you become a plane captain, you have the ability, the authority to tell a lieutenant or a captain, hey sir, this is my fucking bird. You don't touch it yet. It's not ready for you. It's a safety thing, but you have to be able to tactfully tell them, no, even though they're way higher ranked than you, and tell them when they're out of line. So having the balls and the tactfulness to do that, there's a kind of an art to it, but that's being a leader is, kind of sticking your neck out there for what's right.
Okay, so as you guys are both good leaders, I know that from experience.
Oh, thanks.
What would you?
It's very nice of you.
Don't start crying now. We're almost done. You guys are both obviously very good leaders. You've got the background. What advice would you give? Maybe one or two things to any new boots going into the military and going into boot camp themselves.
Just like Swagger said, shut up and color. So I don't know if my drill instructor was fucking with me or not, but the advice that I got from my recruiter was don't be known. Don't be the guy that stands out at all. Kind of blend in, do what you're supposed to, but don't be the guy that's like kind of like look at me, but also don't be the shitbag that's causing issues. My drill instructor called me Henderson, which is not my last name by any means. So that was kind of funny. They'd always call me Henderson. That's probably the biggest thing is initially just do what you're told and trust the process. I guess is the probably easiest thing to say for somebody that's going into boot camp. They're yelling at you for a reason. They're having you fix your bed for a reason, or having you clean the metal. What do you want to track that goes between the tiles, and having you polish that for a reason. It's all about discipline and following orders, which is going to get the mission done down the road.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a whole process to it that you have to just kind of abide by. Because if you don't listen, everything that they're doing is for a reason, because it was written in blood, is what we always said. Somebody died to get to this point, that we need to do this the way we're doing it. And if you screw up because you didn't follow directions and somebody gets killed because of that, you're going to feel pretty fucking guilty for the remainder of your life. So, doing what is asked of you in those situations is one of the things that the Marine Corps really preaches. And there's just kind of that reason and the discipline to respond to, how they want it done to keep everybody safe to go home. Because obviously if one person dies from your platoon, it's going to affect the whole platoon. It's going to, affect a lot of people in this country because they're family members, friends, or whatever. So making sure everybody comes home safe is the end result. So being a leader and doing that is a huge deal for the Marine Corps, and really any branch of service.
Right on. I guess as we kind of start to wrap this whole thing up, we just have a few more questions. But if you guys can look back on your service, what was, specifically boot camp, what was one of your favorite and one of your least favorite experiences or memories from that?
Oh, I'll go first. My least favorite experience. So it was the first night we got there. So we when you get to Lackland, they kind of separate you out between where what squadron you go to and what flight you're getting into. And we got to our dorm, and the first night you get there, you take a shower and you shave. So the drill instructor, I was scared shitless at the point. Like I said, I was 18 years old, straight out of high school, not well versed in life by any means. And they had everyone get butt ass naked, and this dude across from me had the biggest dong I've ever seen on a dude. And this guy, he couldn't have been more than 5'5". I know you opened this or kind of going full circle, like you said, with somebody with a big dong. That was that guy with the big dong. He looked like a rat, but it was just massive. So we all go running into the showers, and I just remember standing across from this dude, butt ass naked. And this dude's just got a huge schlong, and then we go running into the showers. We had like a minute for 40 dudes to get showered, shave, and come back and get back to our bunks or whatever. So I remember looking at this dude going, "Oh my god, that guy's got a massive cock. What the hell? And why am I looking at it?" So then we go to the shower, we come back, and this dude next to me, he was an African American guy, and he had real bad acne on his cheeks and on his along his jawline. Well, we were supposed to shave while we're in the showers, and he cut the fuck out of his face. I mean, he was just bleeding everywhere, and I I don't know how. It was just kind of shock and awe at that point between the massive dinger and the dude bleeding next to me. That was probably the worst. The first night was obviously the worst, and then it got better from there. But that was just like I said, it was shock and awe the first night for this guy.
I was a little concerned you were going to say that he had acne all over his cock.
No.
I was thinking the same thing.
I was like, oh no. Oh, man.
I think they call it herpes.
Before we go to Swagger. Before we go to Swagger, Miggs, what was your best experience in boot camp?
Best experience? So there is actually a deputy.
Please don't tell me it was the Big Schlong.
No, it was not. Absolutely not. So there's two cool things. To kind of mentioning leadership earlier, he was like an assistant drill instructor. On our graduation day, there were F-16s flying around, just around the base and whatever, and we're all standing under the way that the dorms was the first level was kind of open, and then everything above, they had the dorms above. So the first floor was open, kind of like a patio area, and then the dorms are above you, and there's 2 floors of it. So we're standing under one of the wings, and the drill instructor goes, "You hear that, boys? That's the sound of fucking freedom." And I was like, "Oh shit, we're gonna graduate!" And dude, that was probably the coolest moment of basic training, and besides drunken nights with friends in Wyoming, that was probably one of the coolest nights or times in the Air Force, because you're part of this massive thing that really is the most powerful thing in the world. And that little thing that he said, was like, okay, tearjerker, okay. That was probably the coolest. And then a lifelong friendship that we're not in constant contact with each other, but we're still in contact with each other. He's actually a deputy at one of the local counties here. He was my brother flight. We had the same recruiter, and now he stayed in a little bit longer than I did, but he's back in this area as a deputy on the road, and that's kind of cool that we kind of took the same path as 18-year-olds and literally working side by side in the same jurisdictions in a way.
Very cool. Very cool.
When I found that
Swagger,
out about
same question for you.
Yeah, about that guy
go ahead.
That you're talking about. When I found that out, I was like, that's freaking amazing, because that's kind of unheard of. That you somebody that you knew from your time in the military is doing the same thing that you're doing in law enforcement, just obviously in a different agency,
right?
But when I found that out, I mean, the utmost respect for you guys, and him. Obviously, I think he's I know I think he's a sergeant now. Good for him. He's doing a good job, obviously, but yeah, no, like one of my, I guess, least favorite things in boot camp, ultimately, I think, was probably like I said earlier, losing the head of the platoon. Obviously there's positives of that. It kind of taught me a lesson, but that guy, I mean, legitimately had his shit together. So that was an unfortunate experience for myself, but it took a lot for me to get over, because I lost that actually in phase 2, which is like the halfway point. And I lost it because in the Marine Corps, doing drill is very, very important. And, drill is basically, marching, doing, formations, and with your rifles and stuff like that. I was the guide for the first initial drill, test, essentially, was what it is. And we booger platooned it, which means you were the last platoon in your company. So I got fucking fired. And when you get the booger platoon, you have to march around the base, the recruit depot with your guidon upside down. And it tells everybody that you guys suck, the whole platoon. So I had to march around the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, with the guidon upside down, which is like obviously a direct reflection of me. So that sucked ass. And then he joined our platoon. Him and I competed for a couple weeks, and then he ended up beating me out. And when I got beat out, as the guide in the Marine Corps, you have your own rack, and it's in the middle of the squad bay. And you don't have a bunkmate or anybody like that. So I got demoted. I had to go back to. I was actually in the back of the platoon racks with another guy, awesome dude from Chicago, real small guy, feisty little fucking dude from Chicago, was awesome. But he kind of, nothing against him, he knew he didn't have the voice to kind of rise up to be a squad leader or even the guide again. But him and I talked a lot, became really good friends, but he motivated me to keep fighting, keep striving. So I ended up graduating as a squad leader. But that's obviously a positive. But one of the best things that happened to me, obviously, in Marine Corps boot camp was graduating boot camp. I mean, after you finish the crucible, the 56-hour long endeavor of a bunch of limited sleep, the struggle, in San Diego, you got to freaking essentially hike up, like the Grim Reaper is like a huge ass almost mountain that you guys have to climb up. It takes like all morning, and you start that hike at the wee hours of the morning. It's like pitch black. You can't see shit. There's a truck out in front of you. And it starts going up the hill, and the truck's there just for safety purposes. Like in case somebody gets hurt, they can put them in the truck and take them. But that truck goes first up this hill, and it's big, and all you can see is the tail lights, and then it just keeps getting farther and farther and farther away. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? So that first hill is pretty crazy because you get up there, and that's not the end of it. Like you wish that was the end of it. That's actually, that motherfucking thing turns and goes up even higher and all this other shit. But one of the coolest things was once you're done with that, you knew that you were a Marine. You're going to get your Eagle Globe and Anchor. The ceremony that they hold after you get down from doing the hike to solidify you as a Marine is like the coolest thing ever. I'm sure it's very similar to what the Air Force does in any branch of service. But one of the proudest things, yeah, well, it might not be, I don't know, but the Marine Corps makes you sing top of your lung, the Marine Corps hymn. And it's literally, I think our platoon had 65 guys. So 65 times 6. I'm not good at math. I'm a Marine. Miggs, what is it? Do you know?
I wasn't listening. What?
Oh,
just kidding.
I was just asking your Air Force side. What's 65 times 6? You should probably know these things.
I'm not.
The Marine Corps.
Dude, I was a gun toter.
390.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, thanks. There we go. Perfect. So 390 Marines at the top of the lungs, singing the Marine Corps hymn will give you goosebumps, on every part of your body. But it was awesome. I mean, that was the most, obviously the most awesome experience for me.
Very cool. Very cool. I hope that I was correct with that math, because otherwise I'm going to get absolutely fucking torched on social media.
I don't know. Did you Google it?
The story,
did you type it in a calculator?
No, I shorthanded it.
It's
so
right. Fake news.
I was right.
Who cares?
Well, I think that brings us to obviously the most important questions that we have. These are the most anticipated ones. They got the most likes on Facebook, and I think you guys are the most excited for them. First and foremost, what is a Jody?
Oh my God. Go ahead.
Are we talking the song, singing a Jody, or who is a Jody? So
the question that was posed to me was, what is a Jody?
So there's two. Okay, so there's a Jody where you are in formation and you're either marching around and your drill instructor is kind of leads it and you echo it, or there is the Jody that comes over and bangs your girl while you're deployed.
Mm-hmm. Or a boot camp.
Or boot camp, or whatever, when you're off at training or whatever, is the guy that comes over and slams your girlfriend or your wife and doesn't tell you about it because he's a Jody.
Okay, so like a Blue Falcon then.
Yeah,
kind
of.
A
huge Blue Falcon. That actually, not to throw, I don't know if he listens to it, but the guy that actually ended up graduating our platoon, he ended up getting, we call him Dear John letters. He ended up getting a Dear John letter. Yeah, right in fucking boot camp. I mean, he had been there. Like I said, he broke his femur. He'd been there forever. Not giving her any excuses because she's a huge whore. But But yeah, he got one of those, and I, opportunistic me was like, well, I'm gonna end up getting the guide back. But he fucking strapped it on. No, not a dildo. He strapped it on and fucking turned it up, dude. He like no fucks were given. There was no way I was ever gonna catch that guy again because he was super motivated.
Like all those memes of the person just sitting there in silence and talks about how their girlfriend just broke up with them and they're going to go throw for 6 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, he had a 1,000-yard stare and he had never been in combat. Like, it was weird. I was like, I can't beat him. Like, he's going to fucking kill me. So
you don't want to be a Jody. You don't want to be a Steve. You don't want to be Boo Falcon. That's good to know.
Yeah, don't be any of those.
So many names for the same thing.
I know, dude. It's amazing.
Anyway, next question. This is the last one that we have. I think it's probably the most important one, but you guys talked about how you were deprived from your families, you were deprived from your loved ones, from those nudie pictures. Obviously, there was either 5 to 13 weeks long. What did you guys do in those lonely nights? How'd you take care of yourselves? Was it like everyone reached to the left or everyone reached to the right?
So that doesn't happen, and at least it didn't happen. Did not happen while we were in. I don't know what's going on nowadays, but yeah, you fucking suffer. I mean, you 100% suffer.
You don't want to be that dude
going
to town in the bathroom by yourself. Hey, what are you doing in there? Just a minute.
Checking my prostate.
Well, and there's no privacy. I mean, like, there's no fucking way you could. I don't know how it is in the Air Force, but in like the Marine Corps.
I don't know. Have you ever worked in a jail or a prison?
There's no doors on the shitters. I mean, like, you shit literally right next to the next other person. I mean,
we had doors. We have class, okay?
Oh my goodness. Well, fellas, that's really all I had. That's the last question I had. I think it was a banger episode. We've been talking for almost 2 hours, recording for an hour and a half. We might have to split it up into 2, but is there anything else you want to bestow upon the world?
Miggs, did you have a couple other questions or something that we were going to touch on? I thought, I don't know if we got there. We talked about Jody's. Maybe we covered it.
I would just say, if you're seriously thinking about going in, I ended up I really wanted to go in. I love planes or whatever, and jets, and I put like every job I could that the ASVAB score allowed me to, and it just so happened I got kind of the bottom of the barrel because they were taking a bunch of dudes for security forces. It ended up being a fun job, which I didn't expect at first, but yeah, if you really are serious about serving, look at everything that you might be interested in and put in for it and see what happens. You don't know where your career is going to go with it. Mine just so happened to be that I wanted to work on, F8, F-15s or 16s, whatever I could get my hands on, kind of do what Swagger did on the helicopter side, but with the planes. And I ended up being law enforcement / security and escorting nuclear warheads around. So it kind of took a left turn for me, but then it drove me to become law enforcement on the civilian side. So I don't know. Things happen for a reason. Just keep your options open if you're willing to serve and go in, because you're going to have fun no matter what. I would say that's probably, I have some real close friends that I still keep in contact with even after all these years. They're literally all around the world. I got a buddy that lives in England now, and guys go over to Korea or whatever, Japan. It's an interesting brotherhood that you develop once you, even through basic training, and then after the fact with the guys that you serve with. You're not gonna forget those dudes. So that's my 2 cents on it.
The experience of boot camp, even though it doesn't seem fun at the time, it makes for some really good fucking stories, and it actually has a really positive effect. But everybody that you meet, whether they're in the same branch as you or in a different branch than you, that brotherhood that you kind of develop there, that you can share stories with, drink beer over, smoke stogies with, whatever, just kind of shooting the shit and sharing what you've done and what they did is this awesome experience. I mean, it really is. So I think everybody should do it. I don't necessarily think that, any branch is, obviously I'm a Marine. I love the Marine Corps. But I just think everybody should do it, at least experience it, and try your best, and it'll set you up for success in life.
Okay, right on. I think before we all sign off, we do have a couple things we should mention. Obviously, right now, the big thing taking place is the hurricane in Florida. Want to send a shout out to everyone down there. Hopefully you can hear this at some point. Know that we're thinking about you. If there's anything we can do to help you, we will. Please get through that part of it. Some of the maintenance things, obviously, over to risenwarriorcoffee.com. You can use our code, get yourself some 10% off over there with some awesome flavors. Go to Newsly, use our code for your first month premium free. That's a tough thing to say, apparently. But normally, we end these podcasts with me saying, stay safe and we'll get through this together, which is always true. But I think more importantly with this one, I want to thank both you, Swagger, and you, Miggs, for the service that you provided to this country. And I want to thank every single service member that listens in for their service as well, and just the sacrifice that you all put in and everything you've done for this country. So thank you very, very much.
I appreciate it, man. You can say some prayers for my liver as well from that service.
Isn't that the fact, man?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, I just want to say, like Turk said, keep those down in Florida in your prayers. Obviously, being a law enforcement podcast, essentially military podcast, make sure that we're sending our money, our donations to the right places down there. The military and the National Guard that's helping out, but then also law enforcement, first responders, because they're working nonstop to rescue people. So make sure we're giving them the energy, whether it's through coffee from Risen Warrior, or just food, cards or whatever to to support them and make sure that they're able to accomplish their mission. So that's all I got, though.
Okay. Anything else from you, Miggs?
I got nothing, man. It was fun being on here. I was kind of nervous starting it out, so no, it was fun being on the podcast with you guys, and keep up the good work. Keep spreading the good word, and I think you guys are doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
He's got to do it. He's addicted now. He's going to do it again. Just watch. You did great, man. You did a great job.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you did really good. It's funny because I've been putting a lot of our old episodes onto YouTube and having to go through and listen to them, and man, we sounded really rough those first couple out the gate, and you could tell we were nervous. But Miggs, you didn't sound nervous at all.
Not at all, dude. You did
appreciate
good.
It.
You're like an expert. You must listen to a lot of podcasts.
I do, and it's funny that you say that people that that get nervous about it. If I'm gonna plug another podcast, Real AF, Andy Frisella. That dude said that his sounded like total garbage at the beginning, and now if you listen to that guy, it is smooth, and the dude knows his shit, and he's pretty entertaining. So I think you guys are gonna keep building your fan base, and it's just gonna be a matter of time before you hit all 50 states like you keep on trying to do.
I think Andy is definitely going to come on to our podcast in the very near future. Right?
Fuck yeah.
You know who you might be able to get is Tommy Vexed.
Oh, dude, we should try.
That would be pretty sweet.
Because
I don't know.
I think
Bad Wolf sucks ass without him.
There's been several people that I've reached out to, and obviously it's a little harder than just reaching out to them and get back, but we have a lot of people we're trying to get on. I think it would be very cool, and Miggs, like you said, we want to get all 50 states. We're getting closer. We knocked out a couple others, but I think we still have maybe 14 that we have to get before we can close out that map. So
come on, spread the word.
Anyone listening, if you want to share, it'd be great. All right, guys, I want to thank you both for your time on the podcast.
Thanks,
I want to again thank everyone for your service who has served, and on to the next one.
Semper Fi.
Aim high.
Just had to pull that last punch.